Your candidate speech ready? Thank you, everybody. It was a great job, and we kept on time. So once again, thank you for putting yourself out there and agreeing to run, and everybody please vote. Now we're going to move to our featured speaker, Maria Rote. So just a bit about you. I know a lot of you know Maria. She is the CIO of the Small Business Administration. She has been since 2016. Prior to that, she was the CTO at the Department of Transportation, and then she spent 10 years at the Department of Homeland Security in a number of capacities. Before that, she spent some time with industry, and then before that, she was 26 years for the Navy, and she looks too young to have all that, right? I mean, can you believe it? So she has been a great IACT supporter. She is currently an ACT board member, and she's the executive vice president of the ACT board, and come July 1, 2019, she will be the ACT president. So Maria has a great perspective because not only is she the CIO of SBA, but she is doing a lot of good things government-wide, and she's here to talk to us about all those. So please help me welcome Maria. We really appreciate you being here.
Are you okay if I stand in the front at the bottom? Okay. No, I'm ready, Mike. Okay. Good afternoon. I hope it's okay standing down here. There's not a lot of room up here. So last time I was here was middle of September 2016, before I was here with this body. 2 weeks before I started at SBA. I don't know if any of you were here before that. Some of you were giving me condolences before I started over there, given the state of SBA. And I can tell you it's been one heck of a journey at SBA. I got there, lots of everything that you could say that was wrong, from the infrastructure all the way through the stack to the application layer. I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges we've had, but I want to talk about some of the initiatives and how fast and how far we've gone by building an amazing team that we've got at SBA. 3 things that I said. I was there about 6 weeks. After uncovering the state and getting more information, 3 things I put out there. 1 was we're moving out of the data center. 2, we're moving the entire infrastructure to Ethernet. And 3, we're rolling out Windows 10 and Office 2016. Because I felt like I stepped back into a time warp about 10 years or so, of technology that was missing. My staff, who was there, caveat that I was about 30% down on staff. The staff that was there, I don't think they understood truly what that meant when I said those 3 things to them. Okay? Starting with the infrastructure that was more than 30%, more than a third saturated across the board. Long story short, as of April of 2017, we had all of our orders in to update all of our circuits, converge all of our voice and data circuits. We are 11 circuits now away from having our entire infrastructure up on Ethernet. Job number 1. So we're that close. We're real close to finishing up. The second thing, Windows 10 and Office 16. We've got about 150 people that are rolled out. I will tell you there's about 8 of us, myself and my deputy and a couple others, that have been in the guinea pig of rolling that out. So we're getting ready to push on that over the summer and really start bringing some folks up. And then the last piece of it, our data center. It took about 8 weeks to figure out, December of 2016 to figure out what the heck was in our data center, and we had about 70% inventory. We called that good enough. And we started shutting things down, turning things off. We turned off about 200 pieces of gear, servers, hardware, stuff like that in about a year ago, February of 2017. I'm sharing this because we've had a lot of challenges along the way and a lot of lessons learned as we've been down this journey. When you say we're getting out of our data center, I didn't say we're moving to the cloud. We're shutting down a data center. But yes, that implied we're moving to the cloud. To do that, of course, was the inventory, understanding what you have, understanding what you own. We've turned things up and turned things on. I have given my folks a lot of runway to do stuff. I have told them I don't look good in an orange jumpsuit. Outside of that, go. Within the Microsoft, within Azure Cloud, within O365, they have turned on every capability in the tools, whether it's the security center, the monitoring, the management, as fast as Microsoft's making it available. If it comes up one day, they're turning it on and they're running with it. They're trying it and they're kicking the tires. We have been able to move very far and very fast since we've done things and started bringing things up in the cloud. A year ago, we laid out our cloud architecture in 2 months. We did a series of 4 sprints, 2 weeks apiece, to lay out the architecture. We took 2 more months to do the migration strategy. So again, that was 4 sprints, each 2 weeks to do that release of the migration strategy. Last summer, we started backing up and started moving some things to the cloud. We had an entire power outage about a year ago, which scared me to death, given the state of our data center, our air handlers, things that were going down, and all the unknown unknowns in the data center. So we backed up things very quietly in the cloud and didn't tell anybody. Hurricanes hit, what, September last year? Right? Maria? Harvey? So 3 hurricanes all at once. SBA provides disaster loans to businesses and individuals. 3 hurricanes through Texas, Puerto Rico, Florida, up the coast. Guess what happened to our cloud and what we were doing in our migration? Came to a screeching halt, but guess what? For the first time, the Office of the CIO at SBA worked very closely with the Office of Disaster Assistance, and we turned up a ton of capability. We saved them about $1.5 million in hardware and software and things that they wanted to do by virtue of adding about 5,000 people to their ranks. We tapped into resources. We brought things online. We rolled out, because of the time it takes to get GSA facilities to house people, we turned on virtual desktops in the cloud. We did not add hardware to our current configuration or to that offices because things are very stovepiped at SBA. We're working on that. But we partnered with that office and we were able to turn things up in the cloud, and we saved them about $1.5 million. They had about 1,000 people that were working remotely just by us turning on the virtual desktop and getting them connected in. Didn't cost them anything to do that. We turned it up, we own the licenses, we did it. That's one of the things that we've really been pushing is when we have enterprise license, we are taking advantage of every single nickel and dime and capability within those licenses. So last fall, when the disasters hit, when those hurricanes hit and we were doing all that work, we'd already kicked the tires on a lot of things. There were things happening. I will tell you what, that when we were working with Microsoft, we were asking them for things that weren't ready yet. And we were finding out things that weren't working because we were pushing the envelope on a lot of it. And there was an urgency to it because there were disaster survivors out there from those hurricanes that needed help, they needed loans, and we had to be able to support them. We turned on a lot of the capability in the cloud. We had to do it by virtue, we just did it. We didn't ask permission, we did it, and we moved on and executed. So again, did a lot for the disaster. The team has been phenomenal in trying things and doing things. The Windows 10 rollout that we've had and the Office 16, I will tell you that between what we've done in the cloud and what we're doing on the Tick Pilot and all that, I don't know that I've logged in through an actual VPN, connect through a VPN like most government agencies. I connect right into the cloud right now. I've been one of the test dummies. I won't let them roll it out unless I'm testing it, myself, my deputy. But we're moving on that. What we've done to standardize on our desktops, we've taken advantage of work other people have done. DISA STIGs, the security baseline for desktops. We took that, said, yep, this is what we're going to do, cut out some of the things that are DoD-centric, things that we didn't need, and that's what we're using for our standard for our desktops. How easy is that? So that is our standard for our desktops. We've instituted patching, all those operational things, and monitoring and management by virtue of the tools. We are monitoring our cloud environments as well as all of our desktops now. We have never had that level of visibility at SBA to be able to see all of our infrastructure, all of our network, all of our users, and being able to drill in. When I got to SBA and the problems with the network, and I had somebody 2 weeks in screaming at me in my office about how bad things were, I did. She came back and bought me a Starbucks card, but anyway, and apologized. But anyway, just by moving forward, moving fast, putting some of these things in, we're monitoring an entire environment that we've never been able to do before, and we've taken some very big steps. The folks that are running on our network with the things we've turned on, I'll give you an example of something we're seeing now that we've never had visibility into before. This bubbled up a few weeks ago. We now can see all the traffic going in and out of our network, what people are doing. We can drill in. We can see when somebody logs in from another country. With the AI capabilities and the tool sets that we have, we can see that says, you know what, somebody logged in from Texas, but they also logged in from pick a foreign country somewhere else. That does not correlate, and the alerts come up. So we've got all of that going. We found that over the last 7 days, this is a data point from this morning, over the last 7 days, there were 71 gigs of stuff downloaded from Spotify. And it's on our guest network. What we learned is that people were connecting to the SBA's guest network because they thought nobody was monitoring that. They would unplug from the LAN and they would pop up on the guest wireless, and then they were doing all their video. I can tell you we've got just a ton of Xfinity stuff going on, as well as Spotify. And guess what? We can drill all the way down the workstation and see who's doing it. So they don't know that yet. We briefed out the SESs know that because at the senior staff meeting last Tuesday, we showed them. We showed them how we could see who's logging in from where. Our folks that do the physical security, that handle clearances in particular, we need to know when somebody takes equipment out and they're going overseas, in particular countries where you really shouldn't have government-issued equipment at those places. We can see that and we can nail it down. So we're working through all of that now, and we have that level of visibility. That is one console. We had 38 tools for monitoring and management a little over a year ago. We are centralizing all of that. We are in one console right now. We have all of our on-prem and our cloud feeds, everything coming into one console, and that's multiple cloud environments. We just turned on our feed for AWS a couple of days ago, so we're doing all of that. We've taken on the TIC pilot for Azure. We kicked that off in March of this year. It'll be wrapping up. We're in week 10, day 3 right now. So we've got about a couple more weeks to go on the TIC pilot. So we are way ahead on this. And it's actually kind of cool because we've already turned on a whole lot of this stuff. Now we're the pilot, and we answered the mail on most of those things within the first 4 weeks. So we've been able to move very far, very fast on what we're doing. And again, I'm letting my team do stuff and try stuff. And when I say my team, it's our feds and our contractors. Russ is back here in the back. He's in charge of IT operations. I don't know if any of our I don't see Jay here. But our feds and our contractors were making people work together. I really don't want finger pointing in what we're doing. There's a lot of bad things that were configured on our network. I shouldn't say bad, incorrectly configured. Case in point, last Friday we were making a change for some traffic to go through our express route through the cloud. Our FireEye went down. Those two things should have been mutually exclusive. Why did that happen? It turns out there was a configuration setting on the FireEye that shouldn't have been there, but it's been in place for 3 years, and even the FireEye engineers said that shouldn't have been working. Well, guess what? This change over here that had nothing to do with the FireEye took the FireEye down, and all our external inbound email stopped. So we lost mail for a few hours Friday night. So it's little things like that that we're uncovering. So when you talk about challenges, as we're moving to the cloud, as we're doing stuff, I did not shoot anybody for that. Stuff happens as we're moving to the cloud. I'm not going to take anybody out to the woodshed. Stuff's going to happen. I get it. I've been there, I've done that, and I've taken stuff down before on my own. So I know things are going to happen, and it's going to continue to happen, and mistakes are going to be made, or there's things that are going to be uncovered. We've got some on-prem servers that are related to our email that we need to shut down, related to some old stuff that's going on. I'm not going to get into the details, but I know that when they get ready to transition that over at the end of June, first part of July, stuff's not going to work right because there's just too many things that were configured a long time ago that we just don't know. It's those unknown unknowns. We can plan for everything, but something's not going to work. So I kind of expect it, but I told the team, I'm not going to point the fingers at anybody. Stuff was done 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 2 years ago. I'd fix it and move on. So that's the approach we've been taking on all of it. Challenges that I've had is with my Fed and contractor staff. You know, you're a Fed, you're a contractor. I don't play that way. We're making people work together. I don't care we're all working for the same agency, the same federal government. So we're continue to march down that line. But we've made just a ton of progress. October will be 2 years for me. We're going to continue to move on. The first year was all very focused on infrastructure, the foundational stuff. We laid the foundation of the house. You know, we're building on that. I briefed out on Monday our overarching architecture, talking about enterprise core services from the network all the way through to databases, through the data lake, through all of those data pieces, the security monitoring and management. This year is starting to take that enterprise assessment, enterprise look at SBA. Everything from case management to CRM to all of those tools, those things where we have stovepipes across the agency. So huge focus first year on all those foundational stuffs, laying the foundation of that house. And then on Monday, I briefed out and I talked to the SESs because we have to get to an enterprise solution on something. I talked about enterprise core services. I laid all that out from the network all the way through on our data warehouse, where we're going on our data strategy, identity management, all of those pieces, where security monitoring and management fit on that, and that where we need to go for this particular thing that we're going to take the next step on at the enterprise. For the TIC, again, that's security married up with innovation. A lot going on. I have some amazing people that are more than willing to kick the tires on stuff. They are really, really cool. Just letting people try stuff and do things has been really good, and it's amazing what you can accomplish with a team like that. So I am going to stop talking, and I'm open it up for questions. Kathy.
So Maria, you've done an amazing amount of work in a short amount of time. Can you talk a little bit about how, as you go to get to the next level, how do you engage the business line leaders whose collaboration you really need to move the enterprise as a whole forward?
So we continue to have, we still have, again, this year's enterprise assessment. We have, you know, multiple applications, stuff that was built years ago, stuff that's outdated. With the new leadership that came in with the change of administration, as well as some of the feds, engaging with them has been really important. But pointing out to them that some of their stuff is expiring, right? Some of their hardware, some of their software is not supported anymore. You've got 6 months to do it. Engaging them on an enterprise level. We have, for example, multiple service desks across SBA. Every program office that runs a system has their own little service desk. Guess what? I'm going to consolidate those, but I can't do it without leadership support from the front office as well to be able to do some of this. But the folks that are there, they get it. They understand that the vacuum that was there, and they understand that we can't continue to do business as we're doing. I will tell you that everything we've done in my office, I have not asked the CFO for one dime. Everything's come out of my budget by cutting hardware, cutting software, cutting all of that. And the CFO has been amazing to work with, because he said if CIO can save more than $5 million last year and reinvest it into engineering architecture, he's looking for that same thing from the rest of those program offices. So the CFO has been a great partner on this, working with him, digging in to the nickels and dimes and what's going on in those program offices. So a little bit of security, a little bit of money driving it, and then the coalition of the willing too. Questions?
Can you talk a little bit about the role of the TMF?
Oh, yeah, the TMF. The board's been meeting for what, a couple of months now? We've seen a number of proposals from agencies. You've seen the makeup of the board. Folks come from all different places across the federal government, different experiences, different backgrounds, and it's actually been really good, because as the proposals have come in, and we've reviewed quite a few, as they've come in, everybody's got a little different perspective. So when the board meets, we're able to hash through and say, well, what about this? What about that? So even though, you know, those initial submissions are short and sweet, there's a lot that people bring to the table to dig in and ask questions on that. We do have some couple of agencies coming in for round 2. So part of it is round 1. Okay, yes, it looks like something viable that we're looking for that meets the intent of the TMF and the fund, and it's something that we're looking at funding. So we've got a couple of agencies coming in the next few weeks for the round 2. So they get to do a little like you guys did a couple of minutes. They get about 15 minutes to brief out the board, and we're trying to act a little bit like a VC. You know, get in, show us what you're going to do with our money. Don't ask me for $40 million. Show me how you're going to break that up, and what are those, you know, do you really need 10 million? Do you need 40 million? Or what's that schedule, and how are you going to spend that money, and how are you going to show that you spent 5, now you want 5 more, and then how are you going to repay that? So it's actually been really good experience in seeing what's coming in from the agencies.
I have a question back here. Maria, you talked about empowering your workforce, which is great, but obviously they didn't all have the most current skills. So what did you do to establish their comfort level with some of the transitions you want to make and make a more skilled labor force?
So we would like everybody to be on the bus. For my federal staff, I don't have everybody on the bus. I have a couple people that have got a foot on the step, thinking about getting on the bus still. And I've got a couple that have thrown themselves in front of the bus, but I've run them over. We just finished a full-out workforce assessment. Only about a third of the workforce is directly in my office. The other 2/3 is outside of my office. Last fall, we initiated a workforce assessment to look at the entire workforce, the IT workforce at SBA. The skill sets are way far behind. I can tell you they spent very little money over the course of the 2 years that we looked at for some of the training dollars. I think it came down to like $78 a person a year. That's how, and that's when we looked at 200 people, roughly 200 people. That's what it came down to. They spent $78 a year. So that told me there's been no money spent on training. What we've been doing is taking advantage of a lot of the free training as we're moving to the cloud. There's just a ton of stuff out there. So we're taking advantage of that, but we're also, as we're rolling out things like Skype, really pushing on that as an enterprise solution, you know, for video and all of that. We're paying for training for those folks, but I'm not going to do wishful training. It's very targeted to what we need and trying to look forward. So I'm pretty focused on my staff right now, but I'm cognizant of the rest of the staff that we got to work on the rest of those and get the training out there. So we just finished up that workforce assessment. Actually, the report was wrapped up last week, so we'll be getting ready to execute on that over the summer.
Hi, Jackie Everett here. Thanks for your comments, and I'm thinking getting hit by the bus by you must really hurt. But and jumping on the bus would be a much better decision. Can you talk a little bit about your hybrid organization that report to you directly, right? Some have come from the commercial market as well as some that are feds, and how's that going, and has it been disruptive, and the pros and cons to that?
Yeah, so when I got there, my immediate staff, I was 30% down in staff. I had to bring people in quickly. I brought some folks from other agencies, transferred them in. Brought in some folks from industry. My CTO has a ton of experience. He's been a CIO. He previously worked for Gartner for a number of years, almost, I think, 8 or 9 years, something like that. He brings just a wealth of experience. So bringing in people from industry who've not worked in the federal government has been great because they get the technology, they get the solutions, and they're excited about wanting to apply that and do their part for the federal government and help small businesses along the way. And that's what they're after. On our digital service team, you know, of course, bringing people in, you know, from industry. We've got quite a few young people that are in there, and they love what they're doing. They're energized. I need to take more advantage of some of the hiring flexibilities that we have so that we can get more people in. You know, I really need right now, I need a Scrum Master. I need a couple people that know, you know, BA. I need a cloud engineer and some expertise like that. So I'm out looking. And to the extent I can take advantage of direct hiring authorities, I'm doing it.
Hey, Maria.
Yep.
Brian Green, thank you for your comments. So you had suggested a little bit of this implementing agile environment and multidisciplinary teams, if you will, working together. A lot of agencies are moving in this direction. Can you just share a little bit about your experience in bringing these agile teams or this agile framework to task at SBA?
So I'll use our cloud architecture sprint. You know, you think about agile, you think about, you know, development activities. We applied agile methodologies to our cloud architecture when we were doing that, as well as the migration planning, where we did release 1 was our cloud architecture. For my team, the federal staff, it was the first time they'd ever used Jira It was the first time that they were being introduced to agile methodologies. We had 5 Tiger teams that were broken up every day, stand-up meetings, stand-up meetings, stand-up meetings, and people were being held accountable. Did you do this? And it was up for everybody to see that, yes, they did it, no, they didn't do it, and to be able to continue to keep driving that. So with our contractor workforce helping us along the way, with some very strong players, a good number of the feds that were on my staff did not know that. They didn't know how to do it, and it was OJT, and we were walking them along. I don't know how else to tell you that. We did it. We just did it, and bringing people in. And I don't know how else to say that. We just did it. We had Jira, turned it up, used it. We had some people who knew how to do it, put the teams in place, put it all together, and the folks that were driving it knew what needed to be done and just executed.
Did you pull those people out of their functional capacities and create new teams, or?
You know what? Given the state of SBA, we had to tell people, stop doing what you're doing because it's not helpful. You're doing this now.
Yeah.
And when any of them said that, but I have to do this, I had to tell them, we're not doing that anymore. We're doing this. And here's the direction we're headed. We're not doing that. So that has been a hard shift to tell people, you don't do that anymore. If somebody said, well, but my job, my day job. No, this is your day job. We're not doing that anymore. Stop doing that. So we've had to take a pretty strong stance on some of the stuff to be forceful to drive people to, the change management's been hard.
Can you talk a little bit, Maria, when you came in 2 years ago, not only was the infrastructure not what you needed, but I'm sure your contracts were all messed up too. You must have had a lot of contracts. Can you talk from an acquisition perspective what you did in order to straighten that out so that you could then?
Yeah, I had more than a dozen contracts within just my office, and some of them were 1 people or 2 people. When you take a staff of, at the time, about roughly 50 people, half of them ended up being cores, managing these more than a dozen contracts with several hundred contractors on it. That's way out of balance. We did have some small contracts that ended last summer. We put in place an IDIQ so that my budget's a rounding error. I've said this before compared to other agencies. So as I got a little tranche of money, whether it was 100K, 150K, I was able to do something with it, and I put a task order on that IDIQ to execute. So I was able to do a lot of things in small increments, keeping in mind the long game, but was able to move the ball along quickly by doing the IDIQ. This year, I will share with you, we've got 3 IDIQs coming out. We've had to redo that engineering architecture one, so that one's coming out. We've got one from a Microsoft Gold partner, and we also have one for development services. So we've got 3 coming out, hopefully soon. So it's going out on the GSA schedule. But we've had to right-size our contracts because some of the work that was being done, I'm not going to say it wasn't helpful. People were doing work, but it really wasn't in the direction SBA needed to head in. And we were really short on senior architects and senior engineers. We just didn't have that skill set, and we needed it to move the ball. So we had to right-size. Okay.
Thanks, Maria. It's been such an engaging story. Question, when you had the emergency with the hurricanes and still pushing forward on your initiatives, were you able to, not a balance, but still push forward on your initiatives? Were you completely halted? And if you halted, how did you recover?
We did take a pause on our cloud migration for about 3 months, closer to 4 by the time we restarted. But actually that was good because it allowed us to revisit our cloud architecture. Because guess what? In the cloud, you can tear something down, you can put something back up again, you can do that. So what that's allowed us to do to say, you know what, this didn't work, that didn't work, and we actually made some changes to it because we're actually looking at, our DMZ. How do we move our entire DMZ to the cloud? We're partially moving some of that. So we've made some of those changes. So we learned a lot along the way just by trying stuff for the disaster because we had never turned up the virtual desktop in the cloud on Azure. We'd never done that before. We turned it up and we had 1,000 people running on it. Not all at once, but trying it and doing some of that stuff. And understanding what the business off was doing on their systems because they're currently still in their legacy system for a few more months, so we still had to support that. And then we had the network traffic challenges that we had to watch too as we were walking through. some of this. So some of it was, during the hurricanes, I did bring in a PM from the Digital Service Bill, Blaze. He was working at DHS and he moved over to USDS. He came on board for 90 days to help us to be the PM to run the day-to-day activities on that. But we did take a pause on our cloud activities and then restarted once all the hurricane activities tapered down. But it actually helped us because we were able to re-architect a few things as we were moving, so. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Maria. That was tremendous. We really appreciate your candor. We're wrapping up right now, but before we do, I want to ask Marty Cummings to stand. I want to thank Marty. Marty is rolling off the board. Thank you for his service for 4 years for the ACT-IAC board. And this is my last membership meeting as chair, and I want to thank everybody who voted for me 2 years ago. It's been my pleasure to serve ACT-IAC, and I will continue to be around. But that's it, everybody. Please go on to the reception, and we thank you for attending.